Hi everyone, Sarah Spicer here from the English Coach UK. I help expats from overseas to find their voice in English so they can achieve the success that they deserve in the UK. Now today I want to talk about why some British people can be really difficult to understand. Because I help expats from overseas, and one of the things that I hear time and time again from many clients is, Sarah, I thought I could speak English. I've passed all of these exams. I've even studied in English. But then I came to the UK and I could hardly understand anyone. My first response is, don't worry, this is absolutely normal. You see, the English that you learn in school is very different to the English that's spoken in the UK. And the English that's spoken in the UK is also quite different to the rest of the world. So it does take time to tune in and really understand how people communicate here in the UK. So let's get started. Now, the first reason that British people can be difficult to understand is the rhythm of English. Now, the rhythm of English spoken in the UK, USA, Australia is what we call stress-timed. And this means that some words are stressed, so said more clearly and more strongly, whereas other words are reduced, which means they're less clear and the sounds are kind of squashed. Now, the thing with British English, often the difference between words that are stressed and words that are unstressed is quite big. So it can sound like British people are swallowing their words. In general, the words that are stressed are content words. So nouns, verbs, adjectives. These are the words that tend to be stressed and said more clearly. However, those small grammar words like articles or prepositions or auxiliary verbs are often squashed and swallowed. And if somebody's speaking quickly, sometimes you can't even hear those words, so it can be really tricky to understand. So let me give you an example. If I introduce myself without stress, I would just say, my name is Sarah and I'm an English coach. It sounds a little bit robotic, it sounds quite strange, but you can hear everything that I'm saying very clearly. But more the natural rhythm of English, and particularly British English, we would stress those content words like my name, Sarah, English, coach. And those little words would be squashed and reduced. Is, and, These words would be reduced and squashed and would be difficult to hear. So when we put that together, my name's Sarah and I'm an English coach. So it's this rhythm that can make it difficult to understand British people at first, as it takes time to get used to listening to that rhythm and understanding. Okay, my second point is related to pronunciation, and this is accents. So the UK is a fairly small country, however, there is a wide range of accents. So even between Manchester and Liverpool, which are about 20 miles apart, the accents sound completely different. And if you're new to an area and the accent that people have is unfamiliar, it can sometimes feel like a whole different language. But I hope this will make you feel better. Actually, many British people can find it difficult to understand people in different regions of the UK at first, because even for British people, it can take time to tune in to people's accents. And it's just the same with you. With practice, listening to the people around you and the accents that they have will help you to tune in and better understand a wide variety of people. Now, the main difference between different accents is the way that vowel sounds are pronounced. There could be some other differences, but the main difference is vowel sounds. So let's just take the way that people generally in the north speak in comparison to people in the south, particularly London. So for example, the word bath. I'm from the north. When I say the word bath, I pronounce the A as a short A sound. So bath, just like apple. However, someone from London would pronounce that A slightly differently. They would pronounce it as a long sound, bath. So in the north, bath. In the south, bath. When you're not used to that pronunciation, the first time you hear that word, it could sound like a completely different word. But with time, when you start to notice which sounds they pronounce differently, it will become a lot easier. Okay, now the third point is related to vocabulary, and in particular, idioms. So these are phrases that when you translate, they don't make much sense. So for example, if I said to you, you hit the nail on the head. The first thing you might think of is hammers and nails, but it has nothing to do with hammers and nails. What it actually means is that you got a point exactly right. So say you said to me, Sarah, one of the reasons that British people are difficult to understand is the different accents. And I would say, yes, you hit the nail on the head. The different accents really do make some British people difficult to understand. British people use idioms all the time, and often they don't even realise it because they just roll off the tongue. There's another idiom. To roll off the tongue means that you say something without even thinking about it. Now, when you're listening to somebody who uses lots of idioms, it can take longer to process and it can be very distracting because you're talking about work, but then they start talking about hammers and nails or something completely different, and it can be really confusing and you lose the place in the conversation. So being more aware of these phrases can really help you to better understand the British people in your life. Okay, on the similar theme of vocabulary, another reason is first the use of slang, so colloquial or informal language that people use in everyday conversations, and the second is dialects. Dialects are the different words that people use in different regions in the UK. Now, first with the overall slang and colloquial language. There are some words that we use in the UK that you wouldn't use in, say, USA. Imagine you're buying something in a shop. You give the shop assistant money and they say, cheers. Now, usually the word cheers is used when you cheers with a drink. Yeah, you make a toast. But often in the UK and in formal situations, and probably even at work, people use the word cheers to mean thank you. Again, if you've got one definition of the word in your head when they use it to mean thank you, this can be quite confusing. Now, dialects, as I mentioned, are words that are specific to certain regions. Now, where I'm from, the north of the UK, and many places in the north use the verb to mither. Mither. When I was younger, I just thought this was a word that everyone uses. But no, it's just certain regions in the north of the UK. So to mither means to irritate or annoy someone. So when I was younger, maybe I kept asking my mum questions. Mum, well, look at this. What about this? And she might say, Sarah, stop mithering me. So to mither means to irritate or annoy, but it's only used in certain areas of the country. Depending on where you live in the UK, it's good to become more familiar with the dialects, with the words that people use in everyday conversation. Okay, and now on to my final point, and this is more related to culture and how culture impacts the way that British people tend to communicate. Now, in general, British people use a more indirect communication style. Now, while we can be direct in certain situations, in some situations, in order to be polite or maintain relationships, we use indirect language. Now, first, we use indirect language to be polite. When you're speaking to a stranger, somebody you've never met before, it's good to use indirect language. Imagine you're walking down the street and you want to know the time. You don't have a watch, you don't have a phone, so you ask a stranger. Now, if you said, "What's the time?" this sounds very direct and very impolite in the UK. So we would create a polite question. Excuse me, could you tell me what the time is, please? Could you tell me what the time is, please? This is quite a long question, which takes longer to process too. Now, another way that people use indirect language with people that you know is when you're trying to get them to do something which you know is an inconvenience for them. So let's imagine you're at work, you've been working on a report, and then your boss realises she needs it finished today. She wants to tell you, finish the report by this evening. But because you're busy, because it's an inconvenience, because you'll have to spend extra time on it, she might pose it as a question. Would you mind finishing the report by this evening? Because you've heard a question, it sounds like there's a choice. You could say yes, you could say no. But really, your boss is just trying to be more polite and to maintain that relationship. What they really mean is finish the report by this evening. So you can see many misunderstandings could happen simply because of this indirect communication style. It's something that many of my clients have trouble with at first, but once you start to notice it, you can better understand the British people in your life and you can learn how to better communicate with them too. Okay, so those are 5 main reasons why some British people can be difficult to understand. When you're aware of what it is that's making people difficult to understand, it can help you to tune in to the way that people speak. And the main tip is to listen. Listen, listen, listen. Listen by watching movies, listen to podcasts, listen to TED Talks, particularly with British English speakers. When it comes to listening to different accents, wherever you are in the UK, listen to the local radio station because you'll hear people with local accents. They may even use local dialect as well, and becoming more familiar with this will really, really help you. And listen to the people around you. Really notice the way that people around you speak and communicate, because once you become more familiar with this, Not only will it help you to better understand people, it will also help you to be a better communicator too. And when you can communicate more effectively, you will build confidence. And this is key if you want to achieve your goals here in the UK. Thanks very much for listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please comment below. If you liked this video, please press like. And if you'd like to be updated for future videos, please subscribe. Thank you and see you on the next video.